Alrighty, well, that went quicker than expected actually. As you can see about there, I've got all the stuff on. I made a bit too much up. I probably ended up only using about 2/3 of what I made up. Once you get rolling, you can get it on pretty quick if you know what you're doing. And there's a few little... Oh, that's actually showing. I can't believe it. I don't believe it. And you have a few little gaps and pits and stuff, like a little piece there and whatnot. But it's better to have a few little bits that aren't quite as high as they should be, because you're going to come over with another coat, and that other coat will fill all those, as opposed to put too much on. See, with base coat, there's actually powdered glue inside the stuff. And you can buy different kinds that will set at different rates. I'm using base coat 45, which will set in 45 minutes. And they used to even have base coat 200, I think, but now the highest I think is 120. And they've got base coat 90, I'm pretty certain. And I know there's base coat 60, I think there is. They had all different times, and they changed them around about 15 years ago or so. But anyway, because it's got the powdered glue, it is an absolute bastard to sand off or get off, because it's so strong. So you're actually better to put not enough on and then fill it up with top coat, which is really easy to sand off. Because if you overdo it with this, you'll be going like hell to even get it off. And I mean, it sets like, holy smoke. It sets bloody hard, I'll put it like that. It's not at all easy to get off. But that's the whole idea, you know, for it to have a bit of structure. But anyway, I'm trying to cook up the rest of this Chinese cabbage. You got the old wood stove going, because the other house has a dishwasher. I've taken over a lot of dishes to there, and all I've got is this flaming little tiny aluminium pot that I bought at an op shop when I was out looking for jobs. Actually, I was walking the streets looking for jobs, and went past an op shop and went inside. And I usually go in just to have a look and see if they've got small pots, because this wood stove, yeah, because of having the half chain links that allow me to use this thing to pick up the hot plate, it also, those same half chain links sort of get in the way of where the pot can sit. So it's good to always go for smaller pots. And about the only place you'll find smaller pots, okay, to be honest, the only place you'll find smaller pots that are a price that I'm willing to pay would be op shops. And they seem to have a lot of old grandma's old throwouts and whatnot. And quite a lot of them are aluminium pots, and yeah, and you get stuff that's smaller, and the odds and sods, everybody wants a big pot. So, you know, when they throw stuff out, or grandma dies and they go through a house, whoever wants pots will grab the big pots, and they say, what's the point of this small pot in the op shop? And it seems to be the place for a lot of odds and ends and shit that basically people don't want, and that ends up being a lot of good source for smaller pots. So yeah, I'm just boiling that up. Because it's a small pot, I'm probably going to do about 4 batches or so in it. Unfortunately, where I've been getting me blooming cat food, the cheap Maxi Cat stuff, they haven't stocked it for weeks now, so I had to buy this other blasted stuff, and I've been feeding them the real cheapo rubbish. It looks like it's, God blimey, I think it looks like fucking horse feed, to be honest. It's so damn dry, it's ridiculous. So anyway, we've gone and got some Friskies, which is not $1 million, but not too bad brand either. It's one of the ones commonly sold in the supermarkets. It's not the best, but it's definitely not the worst. So yeah, I might have to try and find out where to get that other cheap stuff, because they seem to like that over all the other brands. So, and as I said, you know, it's cheap as shit. So, and yeah, don't know exactly where else I'm going to get it from, but they do have a website, I realised, reading the back of it. I think I've still got one chicken mince too. I've got to go and find that in that freezer and give him that. Anyway, seeing that went so much faster, I'll probably get on and start trimming all this grass and doing all the bits and pieces. Like I was saying, this is just such a strange winter. It's just so warm. It's beautiful warm time, and yet a few days ago I was walking through snow. Only flaming, half an hour up the road or whatever. It is just strange. Shit, well and truly lost it. Bastard. I had a strange thing that looked very, very much like a boxthorn sprout come up in, pretty certain it was this big long green one here. So I grabbed hold of it and I pulled it out. I thought, no, that's just some blooming boxthorn seed. And this morning I had another few larger pots, one of these here, and I'd been looking at it for a while. There's another one that looks a little bit like spinach as the dicotyledons come out, and then, yeah, it just looked like another boxthorn. So I pulled that out. Only about 20 minutes ago, threw it on the ground. Don't know where it went. Probably broke the roots in the process. And then I was going through, pulling out the smaller pots, these tiny little, weeny little black ones. And I thought, shit, that was one there. Shit, that's one there. Actually, it's two there. And they're very close together, and the penny dropped. It's the blasted spinach beet. The perpetual spinach, whatever you want to call it, we call it spinach beet. And it looks like a boxthorn seedling. And here I am having pulled two of them out. I had bugger all actually sprout. And I pulled two of them out. One out of a pot there and one out of the long pot over there. And the black kitty is not going to stand in these ones. Are you, buddy? So that was a bit of a stuff up. I completely forgot I even planted it. But anyway, it looks like a couple have survived. The majority of these are all spinach, normal spinach still. I think, yeah, they're just normal spinach. Yep. Some of these ones obviously, you transplant them, and in the process of transplanting them, the roots are a little bit too long, and you try and stuff the roots down, and they may crack, and they may survive, and they may not. Actually, it doesn't look like spinach properly. That may be another spinach beet. So the leaves aren't bulging out quite like that, which is normal spinach. So that one might also be spinach beet. Yeah, I think it could be too. Yeah, just see the leaves are very thin. After you get your dicotyledons, which are your first leaves, after you get them, you get these thinner leaves, which that'll be the spinach beet versus the actual spinach. I don't think there's anything left in these. Yeah. Anyway, I chucked a bunch on there. I started to get the feeling that a lot of this here has just been shadowed by these two, and so it's like a bit of a, just ain't getting the light it should. I mean, the grass looks alright, but then the grass blocks the damn light even more. And in winter, like you said, it's alright there because they sort of get full sun, aside from that bit of chicken wire, but you know, over here, yeah, it's shadowed by this, shadowed by that, sort of under shade half the time. It's a good spot for tomatoes during the height of summer because they won't burn up too much being partially shaded, but yeah, wasn't really the smartest idea because I had these two here before I even put this in. So, but anyway, I suppose if you need something that's not too good with full sun during the summer, I can always stick them along that side there. of the chicken wire, and then they'll be automatically shaded for the hottest part of the day. I think we're looking about 2 o'clock or something right now. So. Mentioned this in another video, which don't know if it ended up going up or not. Little bloody broccoli heads there, tiny little ones. Yeah, bit too early to be doing it. That one's got one there as well. I don't know if this is even showing correctly. Yeah, it shouldn't really be happening. They're not big enough for that. I don't know if it was a little bit too much fertiliser or these warm days that set it off or what, but I've got at least blooming 3 that are going to fire, if not 4, which is a bit before their time. But they are sprouting broccoli, which means this even my big one, nothing's happening to it yet. They are sprouting broccoli, which means that you can cut the head off, the main head, and then they'll actually get little side shoots continue to come out the side. And these days, 10 years ago, they just sold normal broccoli and that was it. And a lot of stuff I got from the nursery was commercial. It's made to get one head off, one harvest, and then that's it. But a lot of the stuff you buy nowadays in seed packets in hardware stores or wherever is all sprouting stuff, and you'll cut the main head off and then it'll keep throwing little side shoots up, and only, you only get little tiny shoots, like probably about that wide in these heads, but it'll throw up another 2 or 3 that size, and you can actually make use of those. So yeah, so I'll continue to keep them in the hope that they keep throwing up side shoots, but I'm just a bit annoyed that they seem to have fired off before their time. Don't know if it was sort of caused by a little bit too much fertiliser, but it shouldn't have been, because the rest of them got a similar amount, and I was sort of using less than it said on the packet, so on the little tub / container. So it could just be all these ridiculously warm days that have sort of triggered it or something. Who knows? I can just pick that look with the cat. What she does is she lays down on her belly, and if you look close enough there will be a mouse nearby. It's only a little baby one this time. She brought one inside the other night. Ate it under the bed. That was a few nights ago. I need to get in there, bud. If he gets into the base of the tree, that's it. You'll never get him back. The thing gets progressively wetter and wetter as she keeps picking it up with her mouth. Don't let her get away, pussy. Don't let her get too close. You almost lost him then. Cats don't have toys. Oh, the poor kitty doesn't have any toys. You don't need to donate cat toys though. They'll find something. Who wants a little fake blooming fabric mouse made in China for bloody $2 or $3? Actually, I've seen them priced more than bloody $5 for a toy mouse for a cat. Who needs that when you got plenty of real ones? Helps to work off all the friggin' fat she's gained over winter. Don't get him too close, bud. You'll lose him in there. I've seen you lose him in there before. You having fun, pussy? That's a kettle, bud. Isn't it, eh? Don't get it too close, buddy. If he gets away, you'll lose him in the friggin' stalks of the tree there. Anyway, that would be a kettle on a wood stove. Time to make some coffee. Alrighty, well I went and bought another plaster sheet and basically filled in those little spots that I didn't have enough plaster for. Instead of making a mash-up of all little odds and ends, I just went and bought a whole another sheet, and it sort of has turned out quite alright. And before that, I went and got this stuff. Yes, there's a best before date. Multi-purpose joint compound. Now I'm going to go into a bit of technicalities here. The other stuff which you can't see, which is in the bag, is base coat. They always sell base coat as a powder. That's base coat 45. When I was in there I noticed there's base coat 60. I know for a fact I've seen base coat 90, and I think even 120 they used to have years ago. And basically that number is how many minutes it's going to take before it starts to go hard. And as a result of it having powder in there and setting after a certain amount of, having glue powder inside it basically, and setting after a certain amount of time, they give it to you as a powder and you mix it up as you need it, and then you've got that certain amount of time to use it. And yeah, might as well show you because I got. There we go. There. There's my gloves. I often wear gloves anyway, with the base coat in particular. And that's the base coat there. And you see that little dollop? That's actually the multi-purpose joint compound. Now, when I worked back in the late 90s, early 2000s as a very young guy, the boss I had then would buy the base coat and the powder because it's the only way you could buy it. And then you get the multi-purpose joining compound as pre-mixed, as already as mud, as I have just there. And Chinese boss plasterer would also buy the joining compound as a powder, and so you'd have to, the whole lot would be as powder, so you'd have to mix up your base coat, deal with that, and then the next day you'd mix up your joining compound, as opposed to just grab hold of a bucket full of pre-mixed mud. And yeah, as you can see, it's got a use by date, but so long as you don't leave the lid off overnight, it'll stay good as long as you need it to. But he generally used to just, it was probably turned out it was cheaper. None of the way most Chinese business people that I've experienced deal with things, it was probably a bee's dick cheaper, so he was buying it just because it was cheaper. I don't know, it may be quite a bit cheaper. But a lot of people just use the pre-mixed stuff like that for the joining compound. One thing I should mention, if you read the pamphlets, they will lead you astray and try and sell you more shit than you need to buy, and often they'll tell you to use the base coat and then use some sort of a jointing compound slash mid coat, which is like in that tub there, and then use ultra finish top coat. And nobody uses the top coat as, well, some people they get the base coat and then top coat. Other people they get the base coat, and more often than not, most people then just get the multi-purpose jointing compound or the mid coat or something like that. I have seen a job where they got all three, where they got the base coat, the mid coat or jointing compound, and then the ultra finish top coat. And they quickly realised that they basically wasted their money getting the ultra finish top coat that was ultra smooth, because it was barely a bee's dick smoother than the flaming joining compound slash mid coat. And they'll try and tell you that in the pamphlets, that you need all three coats. And the reality is that the guy I used to do renovations with, Chinese boss plasterer, who all those guys are qualified, they only used the base coat and one other coat. You know, they all use 2 coats. The pamphlet will try and get you to use 3, and there's no point in you wasting your money. I might as well point out that your base coat is always whiter, and your jointing compound / mid coat, whatever you want to call it, is a more dark cream colour. And even looking at it sitting in a tub, sitting in the shoebox there that I had the base coat in, it's a different colour. Even when it dries, it's a different colour. It's always darker, which is good in a way because you know what you've done and what you haven't done. With your base coat, it'll be a nightmare to sand. It is a nightmare to sand. Whereas your joining compound, because it doesn't have that powdered glue in it, is a lot easier to sand. And yeah. Anyways, I also got a mist tint. And of course I wasn't going to buy paint straight up. I got wood paint, like all this stuff you see all here. That's all actually picket fence paint. And I thought, oh yeah, whatever, wood paint, exterior, $5 a litre. I had some other stuff that was interior, exterior, that didn't need to be primed and would go straight onto cement sheet, which is exactly what happened with that stuff. Wasn't too bad a price. This stuff, it's actually a tint of a different colour. May have been an orange, and I don't know if it's even a colour at all, to be honest, when they initially get it, but they often mix it to, you know, suit. And long story short, it's a mist tint. There was one that was actually anti-fungal that you could put in bathrooms, and I almost ended up grabbing that, but I didn't know if I was going to quite have enough if I grabbed that. And then I read, and you got to buy some other bloody undercoat shit, and thought, well, this is going to end up blowing out more expensive than it needs to be. And I looked at this one, and it said no undercoat required, and I thought, you ripper. And it's British paint, good brand. Well, what do you know? It's also mould and mildew resistant as well. Mould, mildew and bacteria. This one is supposed to be, if you get crap on the wall, you can just quite literally wipe it off with a wet rag. And yeah, anyway, that's the colour. And well, that's the price. So it wasn't necessarily cheap, although it was a mist tint. But having said that, you know, I thought the other one, which is half the size and $40, it wasn't even half the size. What's this? It's 10 litre. The other one was 4 litre and $40. And so it turns out it's got mildew and mould and bacteria protection anyway, just they don't have it in bloody big letters and a big thing on the side. But anyway, it's sort of like a, I don't know what you'd call that, brown and beige mixed together or something, I don't know. Something like that. Anyway, you can see it, the camera's showing it probably a touch darker than it really is. Yeah, it looks a little bit darker on the camera. And that's what's going to go on there. So, yeah, that's it's not really going to make the room terribly bright. It is a low sheen as well, so it's not going to sort of reflect much. But at the end of the day, none of these rooms are very bright to begin with. So, and it would be nice to have an actual paint scheme that is like just a one colour, as opposed to varying as you go along the ceiling between the smoke stains coming from where the chimney used to be. And I don't know if you guys can, no, you can't see much in here. A lot of this is sort of a creamy colour. And what's happened to the ceiling after years and years of wood fires and, oh shit, this bastard wouldn't have been painted since before World War II. And as a result, a lot of what you see is just pure smoke stain. on the ceiling here. Why don't I get up there and sand it off? I did actually try that at one point, and for many years I didn't even know how to use a sander correctly. Yeah, that's not a joke, because when I done my apprenticeship it was all sandblasted. You never use a sander until I got to air radiators and used the sander for preparation there. I was not very good at using sanders. I used to put too much weight on them as opposed to let them spin from side to side. I'd be trying to push my weight down on them. I actually broke at least 2 sanders in my younger years. And well, basically I still didn't know how to sand when I was doing this joint, and I got rid of a bit of the paint off here, but a lot of it is lead paint, and yeah, it doesn't help that there's probably bits of sap coming out of the wood and shit like that, and it didn't sort of really happen. Long story short, some of these palings are, as you can see from the little white mark, they're sort of getting a little bit gappy, and yeah, parts of the paint are flaking off, and some are going to be a bit like the weatherboards, where they've got you know, some paint that is not going to come off no matter what. And I could sand all this and paint it, and I probably would on either end of the walls, but the actual ceiling, honestly, the way some of it's getting gaps and the boards are, I would just rip the entire fucking lot out and put plaster on, if that was the case. But then you'd be worried about stump movement again, and then the stumps, you know, with all their bullshit, it'd probably crack the damn thing, which I've even seen in brick houses, cracked plasterboard. And it's just, at the end of the day, if I'm going to worry about that, that won't be this year. That'll be the year that I have a wife move in or something like that, and then when she spits a dummy, well, then I'll do something about it. But anyway, there's some things that you don't really want to play with, and getting showered in lead paint would be one of them, and I sort of already faced that when I've done the outside of the place. And you know, once again, it make the joint look nice, but it's not going to really help the structure of the place. And you know, it'd be cosmetic, and I'm sure a young lass would appreciate it, but yeah, bigger fish to fry these days, and we'll cross those bridges when we get to it. Anyway, I just thought I'd give you that little rundown of the paint and the couple little things about plaster and whatnot, and yeah.